Hi guys, Gaming Bear here. Right, you probably know my little Spitfire Mark 1, Tier 5. And you know, I've had this, goodness, years. And working the way up, also had all the way up to the Swift, which I did within about a week and a half of the first version of the game being released. So, I think I better get some more videos up. I've got one up which is about an hour. But we need to look at other lines that people are really interested in. Now, what you get up at this sort of level is, let's call this up. One I've been looking at potentially going up is the Russian line and the Yak 30, which I love my dogfights. The Swift is good, but I love my dogfights, and I'll link into to a demonstration of some of my dogfighting, which you may or may not have seen. So that'll be linked in about getting an ace with flying. So what we're looking at is essentially the combination of the maneuverability. Now, what I like about the maneuverability of the way the Yak looks, 8.6 seconds for a 360 degree turn at tier 10, which I really like the look of. 140 degrees of roll. The Swift isn't far behind with 120 degrees of roll, 10.8 seconds of to turn 360 degrees, which for tier 10 is actually not bad at all. Then we come to the speed. Optimum speed of the Yak 475, and airspeed for the Swift is 674. So just 200 kilometers an hour faster. So this one's the dogfighter. This one is the jet sort of size of things. Apart from then we come to like the real jet side of things, which is like the XF90, which looking in, let's get the Swift in the middle, with the Americans being at the other end of the thing, so we can get a good view of all of the ends of the spectrum. So airspeed, you're looking 862 optimal speed, which is 200 more. So right in the middle you get the Swift, and that's something about the British line, which is one reason why I went up this line, because it's a great average between the other lines. You have the German, the Russian, the UK, Japanese, and the USA all going up with individual different lines, but essentially you've got maneuverable ones, you've got ones in the middle, and then you've got ones which are less maneuverable but faster. And it's getting the combination, because if you've got something like the Yak 30, then you're going to want something that's going to boost its inline speed, because it's so good at turning anyway. Then you get the Swift, which is a combination which has got nice maneuverability. I'll show you the XF90, 17.37 seconds, a rate of roll of only 90 degrees. Controllability is down at 79, so the guns aren't that accurate. Up above this, you've got the Swift, which is 83 accuracy and controllability, and even better is the Yak 30. So you've got the combination. In a dogfight, the Yak 30 is hands down the best. Somewhere in the middle is the Swift. But then if you're looking between the Yak and the XF90, you're looking 400 roughly, just under 400 kilometers an hour difference. This is almost twice as fast. But in a dogfight, the Yak 30 would just run rings round it. But then you come to the armament. 6 20mm cannons. Then the Swift, you're running 2 30mm cannons. And then 3 23mm cannons on the Yak 30. So 518 points, 786 points. So with the Swift, and then 1200 points with the XF90. A lot of points, but you have to be either going up towards a target or down towards a target. As long as you can get used to the boom and zoom, you've got it. The best for dogfighting is the Yak 30, and somewhere in the middle of both other Swifts. Then you come to putting equipment on any of these to allow you to do certain things. Now, coming back to the Swift, mine is set up light airframe to get even more manoeuvrability out of it. At the same time, polished covering to increase the top speed. So it's rather than it push, so it gets a little bit more top speed and a little bit more manoeuvrability. So it's slightly better than the average Swift in a dogfight. And it's got an upgraded 15% firing accuracy to up that firing damage by 15%. Plus my pilot's got boosted quite nice. I'm on my 3rd skill, so he knows his business. So this is it allows me to get around the map enough and then have a fair chance in a dogfight. It's not the best in a dogfight, and if I think I'm going to lose, then I should have enough boost and enough speed to get out of there. Similarly with the American, if he's in trouble, he just needs to jet out of there. Whereas the Yak has just got if there's someone to fight, he can just destroy them. But if they run away, he's got no one to fight. He's got no one to beat. So it's one of those situations that what I've found over the years of playing this is you want something that's fast enough to get you into combat, because if you're on a map and you haven't got the speed to be able to get there, the combat's going to be over before you get there. Your friends are going to be dead, or else they've already won. So either way, it's like in World of Tanks. It's the Yak would be the equivalent of the T-95. You're either at the heart of the action where it's all happening, or else you're chasing around the map trying to get to it, and by the time you get there, it's all over. So it's a situation like that, and that's why I went for the Swift, because it's somewhere in between. Well, now I've got everything on the UK line all the way down, which I've had for years. So you've got the option, well, I've got the option of either going for the boom and zoom, working down towards the XF90, really neat. I've got both of these lines I can push down to here and then into the XF, or through to here and along to the XF, or into the Russian, because if we're looking at the XF, the Yak 30, you'd expect that the Japanese Tier 10 would be the best you could get. So let's have a look at the Key 162. Now, the Key 162 is a really... I'm considering both of these at the moment. Survivability is the same. Weight-wise, 4,600 for the Japanese, and I like the extra weight on this. But we'll have to have a look at the airspeed and the boost and how it goes. Because low survivability often catches fire. The Japanese, low survivability, vulnerable engine, and often catches fire. So those aren't too, none of those are good things. But you should be able to get away from someone firing at you by just getting around behind them. Gun armament, incredibly similar. 230 mils on the Key 162, or the Yak 30 is running 323 mils. So you've got more range and couple of good guns that are great at shooting down slower moving targets, which is why I decided to go down the Yak line, even though I'm halfway up. I'm a tier 6 on the Japanese line as well. By going for the Yak 30, you've got something that will allow you to get in with more spray and pray. Similar, even though it's theoretically below, you've got more shots in the area to strike the target. And if you're circling around behind them, we now then look at the airspeed. So looking at the airspeed of these two, so I wanted to show you my methodology. So airspeed, the Yak is down by 25. The Key has got 25 more. Okay, very similar. Stall speed, both 160. Dive speed for the Yak 950. Dive speed for the Key, you're looking at 1,000. So it's got that little bit more. The guns are a little bit more long range, but you haven't got so much of them. Even though the they're still around about that 500 level. So this we're looking. The airspeed is similar, but then we come to the manoeuvrability, and this is where the Yak just wins out. The Key is good. The Key has got 9.2, and at this tier, it's a nice combination. But if the Key had the guns that the Yak had, I would go for the Key. It's these 23 mils, 323 mils, even though technically it's less firepower. I know that in a dogfight, if I was there behind someone, I would be able to take the Key to pieces. I would be able to take anyone flying to pieces and keep these guns at close range on the target unless they just lit the throttle and just got out of there, bugged out. And if they've bugged out, then I've won, I control the area, it's mine. Bye-bye, come on in boys, we've captured this. So, looking at that situation, sadly, the one that's got the better guns is the Yak 30. It's also got the better roll time, the better, so by 10 degrees, so 140 degrees roll time, 140 degrees a second roll compared to 130, both very, very good. But the best is the Yak, so not just the time to turn, but the roll time as well. You then get controllability. So the guns, it's only 2 in it, but the Yak 30 is even more accurate. It's by 2, but it's more accurate. It's got a lower altitude performance, which is a nicer area to work in, but it's not a high level defender. And for the next level up, I've already got the Brit. So why do I want something up at 2,000 meters? Let me just call the Swift up. The Swift is 2,500 meters. So we've got 1,500, 2,000, 2,500. So that's why I was looking at these. So potentially having 3 craft, and then we want to call up later the American, the XF90. What you're really wanting, because then up above that you get 3,000 meters, higher level, fast interceptor, amazing heavy fighter at the higher levels. So 3,000 meters, you get the XF90. Below that, you get the Swift, 500 meters below it. 500 meters below that, you get the Key 162, and down at the bottom, you get the Yak 30. So what I'm looking at, as I've already got the Swift, which I find fine. It's a really nice. It's fast enough. It's agile enough for the height. But I want something that's lower level, more dogfighty, which is why, at the moment, even though I'm working up the Japanese line as well as the Russian line. So Japanese line, I'm up to tier 6, just about to get to tier 7, and I've got 580,000 spare experience at the moment. So we're looking 57. How much do I need? Oh, I've got enough for it. Okay, so wrong one. I need to do the whole. Sorry, silly bear. I just need to do the whole of this line, because I was working my way up. Let's look at this line. Yes, altitude of 1600. Yes, this was what the other side, because I was thinking of the Yak, which I see the Yak, the maneuverability 10.3, and this is what put me off. I was originally going up the Japanese line until I really realised, knowing the technicalities of things, just how manoeuvrable the Yak 30 was. The J7W3 was going to be my Yak, but then I realised the average time to turn and the average roll rate is just not good enough. The gun armament is amazing, 430 mils, very, very nice. It's a different sort of plane. But eventually I will have all of these, and I'll be able to show you them. I haven't got a premium account. I've got a premium account, but I haven't got something that was given to me by Wargaming. I've earned all of these planes or bought them. And it's a lot of I've put in a lot of hard work, a lot of hours, a lot of days, weeks, months, helping before the game was released, and actually working my way up on the British line. I'm also I'm up on tier 6 on the heavy fighter line. On the German line, working my way through level 5's on the German line. Russian lines, I was choosing the ground attack line. I thought, okay, British for the high level, Japanese for the interceptor of the fighter and inner clinch, and then ground attack going for the Russian. It's a really nice line for that. Then the USA heavy interceptors, high level, very, very tough. Japanese incredibly good in a dogfight, but what I find these are very good dogfighters, and the line just doesn't feel right. Coming up, these feel like they're the best dogfighters that you get, and then suddenly you start coming up to here. The maneuverability goes from 1100. When you get then to tier 8, you go to 795, and it gets worse. Really, from the A7, it should be going to better and more manoeuvrable. So really, for me, I would say that to carry on the manoeuvrability line, it should go from the A7 through, and I hadn't, back when I started this line, realised, and I presumed it would be more of the same, but it's not, and it ends up as something which isn't what I want, where I want to end up. These mid-range Japanese fighters are lovely, absolutely lovely. Whereas the likes of the Key 61, information on this, your manoeuvrability is still very, very good. So looking at tier 6, and tier 6 on this side, this was why I was on this level, because the manoeuvrability is 7.9 seconds to turn. But then, and the key, I looked at, it's not so manoeuvrable, only 8.8 seconds. But then suddenly, beyond this level, the Japanese then starts, it changes, the character changes from being straight line fighters into incredibly manoeuvrable. This line goes from incredibly manoeuvrable into straight line fighters. They are around about this level, and it just doesn't quite fit. And so I was expecting this to go down and end up, because I sort of started off focusing on the British side, did what I wanted, expected the Japanese line to follow, manoeuvrable, carry on, more manoeuvrable, until you get to the most manoeuvrable along the line, and it doesn't. It fails. So this is something that I want to warn you about. The Japanese fighters, you've learned all the tricks in the trade, great dogfighting, and then suddenly, here you are, with the A7, fantastic manoeuvrability, just a little bit worse than the tier 6. It goes to 8 degrees, 8 seconds to do 360 degrees, and then after this, it just gets worse, which is just unfair. Whereas on the other side, the Key 84 manoeuvrability, okay, it's the same 8.8, but beyond these levels, it then starts getting, let's have a look, still 8.8, come on, tier 9, there we go, 9.8, but you're moving towards these more manoeuvrable, relatively, of the Japanese planes, which is why the Japanese line doesn't have the manoeuvrability that the earlier line emphasizes, and it's on the other tree. So it's like these lines should cross over. So like this fighter line should cross over here to become more nimble in a straight line. This fighter line should switch over, join towards the key 84 or the key 94 down, and they should just switch over with the manoeuvrability. It just doesn't quite follow. Even though there would be the logic in the background, because they're keys as opposed to the A6, A7s, so they followed the logical progression. In the physical side of things, it doesn't quite work. So you've come all this way with this wonderful dogfighting plane, which is the talk of the town, just basically the best you can get. You can trick it out, it's a fantastic dogfighter, and then suddenly you've got something which is a totally different plane, and then ends up with this boy that's the manoeuvrability is just not quite what you're after. 10.3 seconds to turn 360 degrees. In comparison to some of the others, like the Americans, it's really good. But in comparison to the Russian, it's not. And you lose that dogfighting characteristic. And the Russian, on the other side, has got a number of options. So you've got the Yak 30, working your way through, the 215, 12.3 seconds, 8.6, the LA-15, come on, there we go, LA-15, 9.6, so it's the LA-15 is somewhere in between the two. Get rid of the Japanese, and then you've got the attack aircraft on this side, and the MiG-15 as a whole new thing, with 10.8 seconds, is more of an interceptor. Airspeed goes up 660 kilometers an hour, so you get more of an interceptor, less good in a dogfight, but more of an interceptor plane, which operates just 2,800 meters. So they each fit in their own niche. So it depends what you want, and I'm going to go down the Russian line to get the Yak 30 to allow me to have that dogfighting ability. But I have to tell you at this stage that if you're going down the Japanese line like I did, you come to this buffer, and I want to stop you making the same mistake that I did. So know what's ahead of you. If you want, even though at these levels the Japanese fighter just really can't be beaten by anybody. There's nothing that can touch it, because it's got the mobility, and that dogfighting ability is second to none. But you come down here, and then it's almost like you get to this sort of level, and it's like you've wasted all the experience, and you've sold a Bentley to get a Ferrari, except the Ferrari only goes in straight lines and doesn't turn corners. It's some sort of analogy like that. You bought one car for something, and suddenly they've changed it to a different car that handles totally differently, and that's the analogy. And I use it the wrong way around, and that's what. So I've got to warn you about the Japanese line. Down to this level, they're absolutely amazing, and I don't, even though I've got just under 60,000 experience ready to go into the next one, it's leading somewhere where I don't know whether I really want to be. In time, yes, I'll have them all, but for now, I want to warn you that if you want something mobile at the end of it, when you get to tier 10 as your first line, this isn't the one to go for. Which was why, when I chose initially, I went for the Swift, because it was as I showed, is the best medium all-rounder. Quite good. This line's quite good right the way up at manoeuvrability, quite good at speed, and it's a really good contender for the middle ground. Balance, not too much of one, not too little manoeuvrability, not too little speed. It's a good middle ground plane, which is why, and it's Spitfires. So not just that it was so good in a lot of things. It's that it's a Spitfire, you know? So, the Spitfires, absolutely fantastic, and especially like the Mark 14. The Mark 14 is a wonderful, wonderful Spitfire. It really is. The Tier 8, absolutely fantastic. I would say this is one of the best planes at Tier 8. incredibly strong contender, very hard to beat, one to watch out for. So, you know, coming up to tier 8, this is an incredibly strong place to be. And looking, the Spitfires right the way up. The Spitfire line is, you can't go far wrong unless you like the boom and zoom style of play, which I'm more into dogfighting. And this suits, it allows me to get to a dogfight fast enough while the Japanese planes are still trying to get there, and allows me to get in, be one of the first in there, start fighting before the Japanese planes even arrive, and then they can come and back me up. If I get into trouble, which usually I don't. And then they can fight against the other Japanese planes, which I'm finding it difficult to handle sometimes, hardly ever. Most of the time, even Japanese planes I can handle. So, Spitfire Mark 14 with set up with a lightweight airframe plus 3% manoeuvrability, and the control surface for another 3% manoeuvrability, plus the special aerodynamics, which improves more the ability by 40% of these manoeuvrability things. So it's not just that it's the most manoeuvrable that this can be, it's that I've boosted it to the highest level of manoeuvrability, and I've got a pilot who specialises in manoeuvrability as well, plus my years of practice with it, that I've sort of got an edge on most other pilots at tier 8 when it comes to a dogfight. That's not blowing my own trumpet, but it's a really, really strong contender. And as you then come to tier 8, the Japanese player who's been used to the dogfighting is starting to get a plane which isn't as good at dogfighting as this. And the Japanese numbers on that Japanese line are starting to go up. But at the same time, beyond this, the British numbers start going up. So your manoeuvrability goes down to 814 from this, which was 1021. So the Japanese and the British planes both go the same way. They both go from manoeuvrability up towards airspeed. Beyond this, the Russians, on the other hand, stick with manoeuvrability, and that's why I want to go for the Russian line as the next one, having realised my mistake on the Japanese line. But keeping the Japanese for fun at dogfights is. It's just, the Japanese line is just amazing up to about tier 7. I hope you find all of this really interesting. If you've got any questions about any of this, about the lines you want to do, your style of play, if you can maybe put a video up on YouTube and I can have a look at how you do things, or let me have a look at, send me your in-game name or message me in-game, and I'll have a look at your stats, and we can work out what suits you if you're starting off, and then maybe we can get you on the line that suits you best to maximize your skills, so you can have the most fun you can have in a line that's going to suit you now and take you to exactly where you want to go for the next years as this carries on. So and having lots and lots of fun in these amazing planes. I just had to share that, and I really wanted to point out about the Japanese issue, and say about the manoeuvrability of the Russian at higher level. So thank you so much. See you very, very soon, and take care. Bye guys. See ya.